Back here, first things first, and we're talking about Kyrie Irving. The Brooklyn Nets star has been inactive for the Nets' last 4 games due to personal reasons. And now a new report says it will be at least another week before he rejoins the team. Yesterday, a video emerged that appeared to show Kyrie maskless at a birthday party, reportedly that of his sister's. This on top of a picture going around of Kyrie on a Zoom call last night for a political candidate 20 minutes before his Nets were slated to tip off. So much going on here. Here's head coach Steve Nash on his point guard and where things are.
Are you sure Kyrie will be back this year, or are you at least confident he will be?
Sure. Like I said, like right now, I got to focus on coaching this team and getting the best out of them. So I can't make any, predictions or prognostications about things that are outside of this building this evening. We got our hands full with the Nugs, and this is 5 games in 7 nights, and we're in a place where we're really just trying to put our foundations in still. So my hands are full there, and that's really where I got to focus.
I don't know. If I was asked if Kyrie was coming back, my answer would be, of course, not sure. I was more comfortable with of course than a sure. But Chris Broussard is joining us now. Broussard, what did you make of the latest news surrounding Kyrie and what Nash had to say and all of it?
Well, first, let me start with this caveat. Hopefully, you hope and pray that there's nothing serious going on with Kyrie Irving, whether in his family or mentally or something like that. From talking to various people about this situation, I don't think there's anything serious like that going on. I think everything is fine in that regard. But I just have to throw that out there. I'm going to say that a couple years ago, a few people around the league told me this, and it's pure speculation, but they said, don't be surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised, if one day Kyrie Irving just shocked everyone and walked away from basketball. Now, again, that's pure speculation on their part, but it's based on their knowledge of his personality and just, seeing his moves in the NBA. Then we have Kyrie last June, about 6 weeks before the teams went to the bubble, saying on a Zoom call with other players, I'm willing to give up everything for social justice reform. And then last night we have him on a Zoom call for the Democratic candidate for Manhattan's district attorney while the Nets are playing their game, or right before when he should have been at the Nets game. Kyrie Irving is acting like he does not want to be a professional basketball player. And I stress professional. Yep. There's a difference between professional basketball player and a basketball player. A professional basketball player plays when he doesn't want to at times. A pro basketball player is available, understands he has to go out and earn that paycheck. A pro basketball player or athlete plays through life circumstances and dramas. And the Nets have got to get to the bottom of this pronto. If Kyrie does no longer want to be a professional basketball player, then he has to make a decision and he has to let them know. If I'm the Nets, I sit Kyrie down and I have this conversation with him. And I also tell him, you're not getting paid for the games you've missed already, and you won't be getting paid for the games you'll presumably miss, because I assume the league's going to put him under quarantine for COVID violations from that party. If Kyrie says he wants to play and he does want to be a pro basketball player, I accept that. And then as soon as I'm done talking with him, I pick up the phone and I start calling around the league to trade him. And I don't know who would take him at this point. But if the Houston Rockets would take him, I would trade him for James Harden yesterday.
Of course.
Ooh. No, listen, I'm so glad you approached this conversation the way you did with the caveat, because it's right. There's a lot of rumblings around the league and on TV about mental health. And one of the challenges in the mental health community when we talk about breaking the stigma is that we always rush to that. If there's any type of behavioral issue, the first thing we say is it mental health related, or it has to be mental health related? It could be, but until Kyrie stands up and says, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, then we need to stay away from that, because we continue to play into the stigma. But that's a conversation to be had down the road if he stands up and says something. Here's what I would say. I 100% agree with you, Chris, on that take as far as him potentially walking away from the game, not like in the next couple years, but maybe even this year. Because what I've seen in his behavior and from my experience of being in the NFL in the locker room and seeing guys struggle and me struggle as well, I see a guy that has an identity conflict. Now, I don't want to say identity crisis because that's a little different. I'm talking about someone who's played ball all their lives, and now when you mature and grow, the things that you start believing in and the things that you want to do is counterculture to sports. I saw this in Martellus Bennett as a creator, struggle in the locker room, trying to conform to the NFL rules and just how we dress, our dress code. Martellus Bennett didn't want to dress in a suit. He wanted to express himself when we travel in his shoes and the way he dressed. I struggled 2015 at the peak of my career when I was an all-pro going for 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. Used to cry in the locker room when nobody was there because I couldn't understand, like, this is what I'm doing. How long am I going to do this? Just play sports when I could be talking about mental health and I could be helping so many other people. And I struggled with that. So when you look at Kyrie Irving and some of the things that he believes and the statements that he make and some of the things that he do, like donating or putting a fund together, $1.5 million to support the WNBA players who opted out, traveling to Africa, paying off 9 HBCU students to college tuition. Like, this is a dude who's thinking bigger than basketball. This is a dude who may be uncomfortable just playing ball. So, Chris, you're 100% right, and that you took the words out of my mouth. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw the end of Kyrie Irving. And even if it's just for, just for a season, I think this guy needs to work through some things and figure out how he wants to proceed, like you said, as a professional basketball player.
Well, that's all fair and good, and I understand and appreciate all that. But if he's not going to retire, I've got this wild, crazy 2021 opinion. Show up to work. Guys, we saw him in the video. There's a pandemic going on. He hasn't shown up to work in a week. Hey, you get at a regular job, you're just out for personal reasons, and you show up on the gram partying, forget maskless during a pandemic, you're in trouble. Kevin Durant is going to play tonight, the second night of a back-to-back. You're at National State, 5 games in 7 nights. You think that was part of their original plan in getting Durant healthy back from his Achilles, or they've been forced into it because Kyrie is hanging out with former Sex and the City stars talking about the Manhattan DA's race on Zoom? Like, I agree with everyone. If he is going through something far deeper than what it would appear by, just going to a club in West Orange to celebrate his sister's birthday instead of going to work, then I empathize with him. But if he is just right now not showing up to work because, you know what, there's other things that interest me more, then give the money back. Like, team sports, tell me if I'm wrong here, Brandon. The most important thing is, can I rely on the guy next to me? Do I trust my brothers are going to be there with me in the biggest spots? Kevin Durant went out on a limb for Kyrie. Kevin Durant could have gone anywhere and teamed with anybody. He picked Kyrie. And Kyrie, 2 weeks into the partnership, is taking a leave of absence? It's ridiculous.
Yep. No, Nick, you're 100% correct. I'm just giving you the other side, right? Like, being in that locker room for 13 years, I'm showing you the other side. There's so many stories that haven't gotten out of guys missing practice for the entire week because they said, I'm done with ball. This is, and I'm talking about from a football perspective. I've seen guys walk in, being in a meeting with the head coach and the owner saying, I'm done. I'll give you the money back. So this is bigger than just basketball for Kyrie. if this is what he's going through. So I get that 100%, but guys start having compassion in the locker room when you see people struggle and they're conflicted with, do I continue to play basketball or do I really want that? So Kyrie 100